Peace, peace. What's good, y'all? Ephraim here again, man. And today it's a special one. I want to talk to y'all about grief once again, and specifically how I managed to turn grief into appreciation. Right? We talked before. It was actually a past video I did that it seems like it did pretty well, actually. It seems like a lot of people really like that one now. I knew it was a real moment when I made it. But specifically, it was turning grief into gratitude. And I feel like that's the overall message. So this is gonna be a continuation from that point. Man, I've been wanting to talk about this for so long. Like I felt it like in my heart and in my soul. I just got the time really to today, but like so much has happened. And I'm grateful because it all adds to the moment, like what I've been able to process, right? So one of the last videos I did was about radical self-acceptance, right? And even if you look at that topic, when I was able to go more in depth talking about my family, right? I feel like that one, first of all, shout out y'all too, because that video reached 100 views, more than 100 views. And that's my first video to do so. So thank you, man. I'm really grateful for it. And it just helps me realize that so many people are dealing with grief, right? So many people are learning how can I process grief and loss. And I know it's important because for me, when I started going through that process, like I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Like I literally went on YouTube and was like, how to deal with grief. And it's crazy, bro, because it's actually not crazy, but it's just wild that so many people go through this, but it's like we don't always have the tools for it. So look, I even got a script for y'all today. I'm like, let me check out my notes because, man, I had to make a quick turnaround. It's a lot going on. But nah, I was saying like I have notes and everything that I want to go through, and I want to kind of direct this conversation as much as I can. But at the same time, like I know it's really important for me to just flow with it because the reason why it can feel tough at times and it can be a challenge is just that there's so many like emotions and feelings involved. And it's like as much as I could want to like keep that at bay or like manage it, I feel like the whole point of this video anyway, the whole point of the topic, the conversation at hand, is just like we have to be able to embody those feelings and like just create space for them to live, like quite literally, because one of the things that I say that really helped me into cultivating appreciation, it was really just expression. Like that's what I'll say. Overall, just expressing how I feel. And even making this video, it's funny, like ironically, it's a part of the process, right? The grieving process, but also maybe the therapeutic aspect, the catharsis. I always be thinking about how to say that word. But now I remember I had an artist that I would work with, and she would always say that like making music is the catharsis, right? And if you don't know what that word means, basically it's just like a therapeutic process. It's like once you go through it, it's kind of like relief, right? So let's say, for instance, once I finish this video, I upload it, I share it with you guys, right? It helps people. For me, that in itself is like relief of, oh yeah, I've been dealing with this and I've been processing it all by myself, but maybe I feel like no one can really relate to it, when in reality, like that's just not true. Because from what we were saying earlier, it's like so many people go through grief on a regular, and I just knew like, dang, this is brand new to me, right? But there has to be somebody out there who's went through it, and how did they actually get through that process, right? So one of the things I'm gonna talk about, well, there's two things, right? Yesterday I actually had a conversation, and it was an amazing young lady at this event I went to, and I know that really helped me overall having that conversation. But also there's my project. I've been sharing it with you guys repeatedly, and showing up consistently where I can. Like when you see Godspell in the background, Godspell is my first studio project that I ever created, released. Like, I've recorded my own music, made my own songs on my own, but that was something I did. Oh yeah, I'm back in my hometown, Buffalo, by the way. I've been back and forth from Atlanta and New York, but yeah, recently, today or yesterday, I should say, or the day before yesterday, I can't even tell at this point. But no, I just came in like 14 hours with my nephew from Atlanta, and being in Buffalo, when I was here last, right, and I was living here, I recorded at the studio with the engineer, and I had multiple other artists who's featured on that project, right? And so I'm giving them a portion of the proceeds, like they're invested in a project, they have equity in it. But all this was to help tell my story of, ultimately, I look at Godspell as gratitude, right? And the whole concept behind that was what I speak is what I spell. And it's funny because when I was at this event yesterday, I seen another artist friend who I used to work with and like collaborate in Buffalo. And she was saying something. She was like, yeah, I've kind of had a hard time with like some of the relationships and people. But she was also at the same time like aware of, like, she's like, but maybe I kind of brought this upon myself, because she would say things like Buffalo's most hated, and and basically like just put herself as the scapegoat in every conversation. Like she would create parties and events around like, oh yeah, they hate me, which is like, hey, that's her journey, that's her story, but she did that, and now she's seeing like the repercussions of that. Right, so for me, I knew when I was grieving so much and I was like so upset, I was so distraught, I didn't know how to process the grief. I knew, like, what, the best thing I can do is create in a way that I can cultivate and build a level of acceptance for what I'm going through, and also just be grateful for the moment, right? So like, for instance, with Godspell, there's a track, Sensei. Number 2 is also a single that I released on my website, right, at economical.universe. It's dedicated to my sister, but all the people, like my ancestors. I have a couple friends who at the same time were also my age, right? I'm 27 now, but when I was 26, they passed. My bro Christian and my sis Ayana, who are both from New York City, passed at 26 years old. And it's just like crazy to me that this happened. My father passed before I was like 2 years old. And I'm like, all of these people have had such a pivotal, like, influential role in my life. Also my uncle, right when I released Godspell last year, he passed. And it just sounds crazy to me, like, saying this on camera, but I'm like, nah, it's really real. And I'm like, I guess a lot of times for me, I've been that type of person to smile through, the pain and the different feelings or whatever. But I'm just grateful now that I can say it, and I can, I guess, to a point of acceptance, like normalize it and just be like, yeah, like, this happened and it's going to happen, fortunately or unfortunately in our lives. Like, there's going to be people who are no longer here. So when I think about those people, like, I can kind of laugh, and I can be jovial. Like, I can be, I'm just saying words. I can be happy about it, and more light, just because I know what those people meant to me and what they still mean to me, right? Like, I know everything that they taught me, and I'm just so more appreciative for it, because it's just like, dang, like, I had these like great experiences, and now every time I think about those people, I get to relive those experiences. So for me, creating Godspell and talking about it, like on a track like Sensei, like the way I got my roll on, I had to learn it from my sensei. No, I'm cut from a different cloth, more like Kente. I was never starving regardless, we got the rent paid. I gotta thank God I never lost at the end date. right? And so that's the hook on the track Sensei. And even with that, it's talking about like, I feel like that's just a kind of a reference to my mom and everything too, of like, you know, and God ultimately, you know, providing and creating space for us, you know. The main point of it is just that things always work out for the best how they're meant to. And there's so many things, like I'll just use my sister as a primary example. The reason why I just went back down to Atlanta was for my nephew's graduation. And you know, with my nephew, yeah, he graduated high school. We were all proud of him, and similarly, my niece graduated, I believe, last year as well. And we all went to North Carolina, which is like right nearby, to see her graduate. And my mind was kind of like, oh, well, you know, we all went to see Rakai, you know, we got to go see Jameer too, which is my nephew. And I think the point has been that, you know, my niece Rakai, who's in the Carolinas, right? It was her mother that passed. And so for so many of us to just be extremely proud of her and like, wow, she graduated and she overcame the loss of her mother dying, like while she's still in high school, her mother passing. And you know, that's my sister. And I'm just like, I feel like distraught about this, but I'm like, I can only imagine how my niece feels. And so we all wanted to support her. But that being said, it kind of created this new cycle in my family to be like, okay, well, you know, we all supported her, so we can't leave out, you know, Jameer, my nephew, because like we don't want him to feel bad, like, oh, we all went to her graduation and we don't go to his. So it's kind of creating this new, you could say like, you know, new ritual, new tradition where we're like, all right, they're graduating, and that's a given, right? But our family has been able to become closer and like get together even more because of the passing of my sister. And that's truly something I'm grateful for, because she was always the type of person who would help others. Like she would show up for people, show up for our family. Like she would come to my mom's house, our mom's house, or our grandmother's house, and like everything would be a mess. And I say that more so for my grandmother, because like with my grandmother, she has a community center, and so she just gets a ton of stuff, and like she's constantly like feeding people in the community, having events, doing give backs and stuff. So there'd be a whole bunch of stuff, and it's almost like she's hoarding, but she's really not, because my grandmother has events all throughout the year and the stuff always goes out. But my sister was the type of person where she's like, all right, grandma, we got to organize this, so like let's do it, you know, where do you want this, where do you want this, and she take care of it. Right, with my mom, every time we would move, or like a few times we moved, my sister would come and just paint all the walls, because that's something she did. Like, you know, she was a doer. And she was only 36 years old when she passed, right? But the point of me saying all this is that this is all my process of like the things I think about that I'm grateful for, right? And in me expressing this, it's truly the release. And I think about going back to what I said earlier, like I was at this event, my bro was doing an event, and I came in, he was just getting off stage when I came in, my bro Aaron that I was telling y'all about. But it was cool, you know, I actually saw a lot of people. Funny enough, even that I've grieved the relationships that I had, like people that I once was close to, but those relationships change, right? We all have like our own paths. They might be doing their thing, or we don't resonate with one another. And it's funny because I talked to one of my friends even about that, like the one who I was telling you guys, who's like, yeah, she's the most hated. Like now it just comes with the acceptance of, you know what, like we're just not on the same page with certain people, and that's cool, you know, that's perfectly fine, right? But yeah, when I went outside, I was at this event, and this young lady was talking to another artist who actually, shout out Queen Mother, she's on Gospel, she's on the intro to my project. And she just seen me. She actually seen me nearby, because I was talking to her, but I had my bag, my lovely bag with these elephants, you know, It's from Thailand, and I got it in Atlanta. It was a Thai shop. So I just love carrying it around like it's something that I like, right? And she's like, yeah, I seen your bag, like it's really dope. And I'm like, oh, like thank you. I was like, I like your hair. You know, she had like her hair done with pigtails or something, and she was like, oh, my sister did it. She was like, my sister did it, and I was just like, I was just kind of listening. I was like, okay, and then she just started going into this like this whole moment, like talking about her sister. And she was like, yeah, you know, I'm so grateful for my sister. Like, you know, I think about all the time, like if she would die, like how and it was kind of crazy. But she was like, you know, I've been having a couple of drinks too. So she was like, she was kind of lit. But we were all just outside, and she's like, yeah, you know, I just think about my sister. Like, what it would be like if she died. And I was just, and she, it's so funny, like hearing her say it, I'm like, oh shoot, like dang, okay. But she was just saying that because she's like, my sister, like she's so amazing, and she was like, you know, her mother in a large sense. She was like, you know, to me, my mother was really busy and she wasn't always around. She was usually working, and she, you know, she was trying to do her own thing, which is like, you know, I respect and all. And this is, mind you, like this is a young girl, like probably in her 20s or something. And it was just interesting hearing this perspective, because she's like, yeah, you know, people should be able to live their lives and do their thing. But it was kind of tough for me because I was never really close with my sister, or close with my mom, excuse me. So that being the case, she's like, my sister kind of played that role for me. And we would always do a lot of things when I was younger. And she's like, now that I'm older and I still have her in my life, I really can appreciate it. And now, mind you, I'm just listening to all this, and I'm like, yo, things truly happen for a reason, because that is very much like so similar to my story, like my life experiences between, you know, my mom and my sister, right? How my sister was like the second person to truly like love me, like literally. And, you know, my mom was working, she went to school. For context, like, right, my mom had my oldest sister who passed like young, like she was like 15 when she had my sister. So, you know, at a young age, it's like, all right, my sister was playing this next role and just taking care of me and my other sister who's in Atlanta, right? Who, the one who I go out, you know, I would stay with now, and saw her son graduate. So that being said, I'm just like, wow, man, like it's such a beautiful thing. And I end up telling the girl, like I end up telling her, like, yeah, you know, my sister passed, but like hearing you say all that, like I just really appreciate it. And like, you know, I asked her for a reason, but it was just really amazing to come across somebody who maybe shared the experience. And I'm like, you know, definitely you should appreciate your sister, because I know what it's like, right, when that person is no longer there. And man, I'm just like, yeah, that whole time, as soon as you said it, like I damn near wanted to cry. I'm not gonna hold y'all. But I was like, nah, I kept it, you know, we kept it P, man. We kept on moving. And I was just like, dang, like that's crazy, bro. That's crazy. But yeah, anyway, the whole point is gratitude. And oh, speaking of like even the creative act, right? Even on my project, the last track I have is called One More Chance. And it's like a direct letter to my sister. It's a direct letter to her and even my dad, which I kind of mentioned, because again, he passed before I was 2 years old. But more so, I'm saying to my sister, like if I had one more chance, like just how I would show you the ways that I'm grateful. I would show you my appreciation in real time. And it's not like I feel like I didn't show her that, because I've always loved my sister. And even in the things that, like being transparent with you guys, with some of our family, when, you know, people might have been upset with her when she was struggling with substance abuse and alcohol abuse, there was ways that maybe my family wasn't the kindest to her. And you know, my sister even told my grandmother that she felt like a black sheep. And so my thing, being her younger brother, even when I was like in my teens and early 20s, like I would see her outside or she'd ask me for something. I just always wanted to make her feel welcome because like I knew she was going through something, but of course, I didn't really know the magnitude of it. But I just knew I wanted to show up for my sister because the feeling of it, like just the love that I have for her, it's really a representation of all the moments that we've shared and like me literally being grateful for her. Cause there's things that like when she passed, my mom put out a bunch of these photos and stuff. And I'm like, I don't even remember like these photos, all these photos from when I was a kid, man. And she just holding me like in all these different outfits. But one of my songs, Church, like I even use like a photo that I remember. I use it for a song cover that like I released. It's on streaming. And then I have this other picture more recently, right? And I've been thinking about it like, kind of like creating an altar. I realized like I have my own picture, but it's funny, like my mom has a picture in the house of my sister, and my sister in Atlanta has a picture. Dang, if I could find the one that I'm looking for. But they have a picture of just her. And it's like literally, it's just on a table, like somewhere, you know, a special place in the room. When we think about like our ancestors and people who aren't here anymore, we create this space for them that is literally like an altar. And now when you think about what an altar is, like there's some different definitions and whatnot too. Ultimately, I look at it as a place like you can come home to, you know, usually there's some type of ritual practice. But that word just being the word, like ritual, that practice is just gratitude. And it's just something that we do repetitively over and over and over. But now it's like when I'm like sleeping on the couch in my mom's crib and even in Atlanta, I think about like you walk through the door, you see this picture of my sister who's no longer here physically. And I just think about, wow, like, you know, even what it means to my mom and my middle sister about keeping the memory of this person alive and how we can just appreciate them even in their absence physically, you know? And so for me, I have this picture that I found. This has now become my favorite picture. I'm gonna make sure y'all can see. Oh, where'd it go? There we go. This is my favorite picture, man, because it's just like me eating a bunch of food. They said I was a hungry baby, man. They said I was always, I was crying when I wanted my food because I just love to eat and be satiated. But yeah, it's just like my sister with her smile. Like, nah, y'all gotta wait. All right, I gotta show you that picture one more time. Hold up, we gotta get the close up. Cause like, look at her face, man. And you can just tell like from that moment, you know, how much she cared for me. And like, even when I think about one of the last moments that I really just recall with like so much fondness and like I'm just like so grateful and like happy about was when she came to see me perform like for the first time. She was with my cousin, my older cousin. And then she literally seen me, I think that was like 2021 maybe. She seen me like doing my thing. It was like poetry. I was doing some spoken word. She just started crying. Like, she was just watching me. She was like, you know, and it's just so funny because like most of my family at that point hadn't really seen, you know, the skill that I was developing and like what I was just really so passionate about, which is like music, but also like spoken word and hip hop, right? And just being a communicator, a lyricist. And when she's seen that, I remember after she even told me, she's like, bro, like, you know, you're so dope. And like, she's like, just keep going, like, just keep going. You know, she's like, you're amazing. And now I just think about the fact, like, yeah, on a spiritual level, like on an ancestral level, I feel grateful because it's like having somebody who loves and cares about me always being present with me, like energetically, you know, in my memory, but also like her spirit always being with me. And they talk about like angels, right, watching over you. That's really how I feel with my sister. And it's funny enough, like, I guess, you get into a whole deeper conversation with like on the spiritual plane, and like how so many creatives and artists journey, and like, maybe even celebrities or famous people in general talk about how a lot of times the people that we love, they might not be present with us physically to be there in all the moments, like when we have the success, right? And sometimes maybe that sacrifice is a part of the journey, like, on a spiritual level. But I remember even hearing something from KRS-One that was saying like, a lot of your spiritual ancestors become guides once they move out of the physical realm, the physical space. And it's like, now you have somebody who's even closer to God, right? Just watching over you and actually helping you on your journey. And I just find that so interesting, man. I find it really interesting. Because I think about people, someone like people talk about like Ye again, of course, as a reference. They always talk about, oh, this person isn't the same since their mom died. And it's like, don't get me out of pocket. It's like people, if you lost your parent, if you lost the person who, that was so funny, who's been taking care of you your whole life, like, how do you think you would feel? You think you're gonna be the same person? If your mom dies today, like if your father dies, it's like, no, like it's going to create an alteration, like some type of change in you, in like who you are. But it's about how you handle and you hold space for these feelings of grief, right? And for these emotions.